Hey guys, Eggy here, welcome back to another video. So today's video is a slightly different video to what I usually do. It's a video suggestion from Hawk. Now if you don't know, I have a Discord server now that I created. It is linked in my YouTube channel bio and in my Instagram bio, but I will link it in the description box as well in today's video, just so those who haven't joined can join. Basically we have a channel where you put in your video suggestions and ideas for me to do, so then that way I'm creating something that you want to see as well as creating something that I'm happy with making. There will be some requests that I won't be able to do, just purely because I have a limited space that I film in and limited space in my collection, because my collection's not as big as other bigger YouTubers and such. So there will be some that will be tricky for me to do, but so far out of the suggestions that I've had, I'm all happy with pretty much all of them. So if there are ones that I won't be able to get around to doing, I will let you know in the same channel, just so we don't have any, hard feelings and such. But yeah, Hawk's suggestion was to... Sorry, I wrote a script out to help me, and I can't read my own handwriting. But yeah, Hawk's suggestion was to create a video based on how I got into manga collecting / discovered manga. I've also decided to include it on how I got into anime as well, because it goes hand in hand in how I started getting into manga. I've done it as a PowerPoint just purely so I'm not talking at you. Like, I am talking at you, but at least with a PowerPoint you've got some pictures to look at rather than just me talking at you, if that makes sense. But yeah, let's get into it. So my first anime that I watched was Ponyo. Ponyo came out over here in like 2008, I think, so I would have been about 6. But yeah, it was the first... I watched it dubbed because obviously, I didn't know there was a difference at that age between dubbed and subbed. But yeah, the dubbed for Studio Ghibli films is really, really good. Like, they put in the same amount of effort and like love and care into it that the original Japanese voice actors do. So like, you can tell that they enjoy putting the effort into it, if that makes sense. Because some films that I've watched, the dub is like really shouty angry men, and a lot of Japanese people are soft spoken, and a lot of characters in films and such aren't all shouty angry men, so it seems a bit off-putting for me. Like, that's just my personal preference with dubbed stuff that I've watched, so I prefer to watch it subbed. With Studio Ghibli films, I watch them subbed and dubbed depending on what mood I'm in, just purely because the dubbed is just as good as the subbed, which is, what I'm happy with. I like that the dub is just as good as the sub, because then I can just decide if I want to do it in Japanese or if I'm just feeling it in an English way, if that makes sense. But yeah, the Studio Ghibli ones, they have like lots of big names for like the voice actors, like the English voice actors, because in Ponyo you have Liam Neeson, Kate Blanchett, Matt Damon and Betty White, which are like really big popular actresses and stuff. Yeah, the first 12 seconds of like the opening scene, like this scene, that's kind of blurry because of how much I zoomed in the picture, but the first 12 seconds of the opening scene with like all of these fishes and like the other creatures, it took 1,613 pages of sketches to develop, which is like crazy considering how detailed it is, which you can't really make out because the picture's blurry, but if you've watched it, you know how detailed it is. But yeah, my first thought when I watched it as a child was like, wow, that's a lot of fish. But like, obviously, now that I've watched it a few times and I'm older, I know like all the hard work and effort that must have gone into it, and like I can appreciate that now. Not that I didn't when I was younger, I just appreciate it more now that I'm older, if that makes sense. But yeah, especially as Miyazaki himself drew most of the sea and wave imagery, like he didn't copy it or anything, he didn't get someone to help him. He did most of it by himself, which is like really cool to do. Yeah, it's a really detailed one. But yeah, the description of the film is that you've got Sasuke, the little boy, who Miyazaki based on his own son, which is pretty cool. But he develops a friendship with Ponyo, who's a little goldfish, but she wants to become human after meeting Sasuke so that they can continue to be friends and stuff. So yeah, it's basically just a film about like their friendship, and like it's a nice wholesome one, you know. It's a nice one to start with as well, like even if you are just getting into anime and stuff. But yeah, not only was this my first anime, it was like my first step into Studio Ghibli as well, so it's like a double whammy. But it was also where I first discovered my anime crushes, which just happened to be Ponyo's parents, which, you know, I get a lot of judgment, but, you know, people judge a lot of things, so, but, yeah, Ponyo's parents, Grandmama and Fujimoto, personally, I think this is where my love of long-haired anime men came from, because long hair, she also has long hair, you know. I don't know where I would have picked it up otherwise. But yeah, Ponyo was my introduction to Studio Ghibli films and anime. And as I grew up, I watched the same 3 on repeat, which was Ponyo, obviously, House Moving Castle, and Spirited Away. They all have a really soft spot in my heart. Like, no matter how many other Studio Ghibli films I watch and stuff, I always return to these 3. It's especially good if I'm in the mood to watch something, but I'm not too sure what I want to watch, rather than scrolling and scrolling and scrolling for ages to find something to watch. I just stick one of these 3 on, and I'm sorted. Like, I've watched them at least 100 times each, and like I'm happy to keep watching them. Like, I'm not bored of it, if that makes sense. But yeah, with House Moving Castle, I tend to watch it twice, like back to back, because then if you watch it the first time, you're watching it from Sophie's perspective, and if you watch it again straight afterwards, you're watching it from House's perspective, from when he's trying to find her, which personally, for me, I enjoy that. I find it more enjoyable. Like, you're not just seeing it from one point of view, because kind of towards the middle and the end you realise it's another person's point of view as well. So if you watch it back to back like I tend to do, you kind of get, it's the same film, yeah, but you still get different takes on it, if that makes sense. And Spirited Away, I believe, is the only one that he's won an Oscar with, which is really weird because like a lot of them are really, really good. And Spirited Away, I do love that one because I do love the Soot Sprites, which the Soot Sprites were first in My Neighbor Totoro, I believe. I could be wrong, but the Soot Sprites are really cute. But yeah, Spirited Away being the only one that he's got an Oscar for is really weird because me personally, I prefer House Moving Castle to Spirited Away. So, but I don't know, I'm not the one that does the Oscars and stuff. But yeah, flash forward a few more years and I'm at secondary school, like halfway into year 7, so I'd been like 11 and a bit. I came across a manga and anime club. It was really accidental too, because I was handing in some late homework because the teacher wasn't happy with it, which, you know, you're in year 7, you're like learning all these new things that, you know, you're not used to learning and stuff, and it's a lot more difficult because I remember in primary school we didn't have science classes, we literally just had maths and English. And then you're going into year 7 and you got all of these extra classes, so I was a little overwhelmed, as any new secondary school student would be, but that's neither here nor there. But yeah, I was handed in some late homework and I decided to stay while she checked it over, just to make sure there wasn't anything else that I needed to add, because, you know, I didn't want to leave and I had to be called in the next day to redo it all. So I stayed, which is when I realised that people were in the class and they were watching an animated film, which was the first time that I heard it being called anime, and I was like, oh, anime, that's what Ponyo and all of these Studio Ghibli films are that I've been watching. So yeah, that was the first time I'd heard it being called that, which was my little, not my introduction to anime, because that would have been Ponyo, but it was my first taste of what more is out there, if that makes sense. So every time the club was on, which was once a week, Wednesday lunchtime, I think, I kept going back to be introduced to other shows and stuff. They did write me a list like the other girls in the club, which was nice of them, but I have now, because it was many years ago, lost that list. I think I lost it the same day I got it, which was, a bit oofs. But yeah. They introduced me to anime and stuff. I can't remember what ones we watched because the lunch break is only so long, and if the teacher's delayed in getting to the class or whatever, it ends up being 40 minutes rather than an hour lunch. And then a film's usually an hour and 40 minutes, and we wouldn't go back to the same film to finish it off. We'd always start a new one, which was weird, but it's just the way it happened. But yeah, they told me a list of animes that I should watch, but not where to watch it. They just told me check online, and it's that wasn't very helpful, especially as I didn't have a computer or a phone that was connected to the internet at that point, so it wasn't very helpful. But not even halfway into the year the teacher left. I don't know if she got pregnant or what, but she was an English teacher, so being pregnant is most likely. But yeah, at that stage, anime was still a really weird thing. People used to think it was only the misfits and stuff that watched it, so nobody really knew what it was about. So we couldn't really ask a teacher to help us run the club. The other older girls kept trying to apply to teachers, being like, oh, we know how to do it, we'll teach you how to just put on something for us to watch, that's basically it. But none of the teachers wanted to touch it, so that was kind of disappointing. I was just starting to like it, and then it was nope, finished. But one of the older girls did tell me that there was manga in the school library, and she told me it was basically anime in book form. So one day I went to the school library, and then I found a shelf. There was 3 shelves, and on each shelf was 5 or 6 different mangas. They were really spread out, and it was a really small section. So I just assumed, it was really popular, and that's why there was no books. No, that was not the reason. But yeah, the books were really mix and match. You had odd volumes and stuff. There wasn't a complete series. It was just volume 4 of this one, volume 7 of another, volume 8 of a different series, if that makes sense. So I picked up a book, and luckily it was the one that had the back page telling you, no, you're reading it the wrong way, it's flipped, so you should read it this way instead, which was super helpful because it was the first one that I picked up. But unfortunately for me, the first one that I picked up was volume 4 of Loveless, so I read it and I just didn't know what I was reading because, I was very young, new to manga and stuff, and yeah, that was my little introduction to manga. And then I blame the school for having that, because I don't know if they knew what they was getting into or someone requested it, but yeah, that is not where I would start now. With all the knowledge that I have, I would not start with Loveless. But yeah, I didn't touch any more manga for like a month, and I went back to the library, found volume 7 of Soul Eater, which obviously confused me because it's the 7th volume. No idea what the series is. I still new into manga and stuff, so I wasn't really knowing what to look for. And then after that, it just confused me, so I just stuck with the regular books because I knew what they were like. But yeah, fast forward a few more years to when I was in college and I was like 19. I really developed, like, I already watched anime and stuff during that time, so I had like a few shows and stuff that I've watched, although I wasn't watched it on a known legal platform, shall I say. So a few weird stuff did slip through the cracks, which I quickly turned off once I realised it was weird. But yeah, I still had my love of anime. I just redeveloped my love of manga during college, because I went to Forbidden Planet in London with a friend, and it was the first time I went to Forbidden Planet as well, and it was like around Christmas time, so it was busy, and the Forbidden Planet in London is really hot anyway, so it's busy, hot. I was overwhelmed because I'd been on like 3 trains, because at that point there wasn't that one train to go there. I had to keep switching over, and I was like already stressed getting there. But yeah, I wasn't too sure on what to get, because obviously kind of like my second introduction to it, so I didn't really have all the resources that I have now. I don't have the online friends that I have now to teach me about manga, so I think I only picked up like 5 things, and they are not with my collection anymore. I did unhaul them because I did not like them. But yeah, since then, it was like kind of before like the second wave of COVID. So when COVID hit, I didn't really focus on my hobbies. So I've only really started collecting properly in the last year or two. But where I have such little space, I'm a lot more hyper focused on what I'm collecting and trying to only collect the things that I love over people's recommendations for me. Because when I first started, people were recommending me like the most popular series that had just come out at that time. I didn't like it. I just did not like it. Like, I'd read 1 volume, didn't like it, and everyone's like, no, it gets better, it gets better. So I'd read the 2nd volume, still didn't like it. I'd read the 3rd volume, still didn't like it, and then like, no, it gets better, it gets better. But at the 3rd book in like manga is the turning point. So if you don't like it at the 3rd one, you're not gonna like the rest of the series mostly. Like, that's just how it is, which at that point I didn't realise, and everyone was telling me, no, it's good, you need to get into it. And then like, I thought there was something wrong with me, because everyone was recommending me these like popular series and stuff, and they all liked it, and they were telling me that other people liked it as well, and that it's really popular, so it's really, really good and stuff. And I didn't like it. But then they kept telling me, no, it's good, you just gotta read more. And I ended up really burnt out and just unhappy, because I was like, I don't like it. I really, really don't like it after like the 6th time of reading it. I really don't want to waste my money collecting it. But these people are saying it's good, and these other people are saying it's good, you know? So I was like, well, if it's that good, I should like it. But I didn't. So luckily that was also during COVID, so I took a break from it during COVID, because I was mostly staying in, so I didn't have time to go out and buy it. And at that point, as I said, I didn't have a laptop, or I still don't have a laptop. My iPad, I didn't have anything to find resources for manga and stuff. But when I went back to manga collecting, I'd gotten a gist of the different demographics, which I am still not 100% sure on, which is great now because I have friends who can tell me what the different demographics are, because my friend Hobbit, he really likes seinen. He is the seinen king, so if he picks something up, 90% of the time it's seinen. And then Maho likes shoujo, which, go figure. But yeah, I have a lot of friends now I can ask about different demographics if I struggle with it. But the demographics don't really bother me that much now, because at the moment I'm just picking up stuff that I know I'm going to like, and if I don't like it, I try to get rid of it at just the first volume, so someone else who's also interested in that series, they can have the volume. And in that way I'm not going back to how I was at the beginning, where I was collecting this series that I didn't like and just being stuck with it. But yeah, my collection has remained around 200 volumes at the moment, just purely because that's all the space I have for all of those volumes, because I only have like the one bookcase and then 2 extra shelves, because my collection is in my bedroom, so it's very small space. But yeah, so now if I buy a series that I'm interested in, I'm trying my best to just stick with series that I've already got. But then if they're a bit slow to release, which happens sometimes, I just buy some first volumes and only the first volumes, so I can read the first volumes and decide if I like it. And it's like, if I like it, but I wouldn't be in a hurry to buy the next one, then I decide to just stop the series there, because I've realised I tend to pick up the lengthy series, so like the series with like 20 odd volumes. So if I like it but I don't like it a lot, I just call it quits at that point, because then I'm not invested in it, which has saved me a lot of time and a lot of money, because I have realised a few series have been like 14 volumes that I didn't realise, and I just stopped at one because I liked it, but I wouldn't pick up the next one in a hurry. I would choose something else over it, if that makes sense. So I'm trying to be very, very good with my collection and only pick up stuff that I like and that I want to read, and not like popular recommendations, because I know I won't like it, which is a struggle, especially when you put what ones you've read and then people throw recommendations at you and it's completely different. Because before I found my online friends, I used to just Google a load of stuff because I didn't have, another opinion. And then I don't know what website it was, but I put in all of the ones that I'd read, which at that point was only like 4, and then I'd spout off different recommendations for you. But then the stuff that they were recommending were like really actiony stuff, and then the stuff that I'd inputted was shoujo stuff, so it's kind of like, well, I'm not gonna like that, so what's the point? And then that's also why my collection had been halted a bit, because I was still getting used to what manga was and like what I was into and like my interests. But I've been collecting on and off for about 2 years now, so my collection at this point of recording is a collection I am happy with, and like I've got my trinkets and stuff on my shelves, so when I look at my bookshelves I'm just like happy with it, if that makes sense, rather than looking at it and be like filled with dread because I got all of these series that I haven't read and I don't want to read them. I still do have unread books because I haven't read anything in a month or so, because I've just been so busy with work and stuff that I haven't had the time. But I'm not looking at my bookshelves and going, oh, I gotta read, oh, you know, stuff like that. I'm just looking at my bookshelves and going, oh, I got my trinkets there, I got my little letters from Sparrow, Hawk, Maho, Hoppet, you know, on my shelves, and that I see it makes me smile, it makes me happy, which is personally what I want in my collection. So I'm happy with my collection as it is, rather than just having stacks and stacks and stacks of manga that I don't want to touch, and it's just sitting there and sitting there and sitting there, and I don't want to deal with it, so it's just sitting there and sitting there and sitting there, just making me unhappy, if that makes sense. But yeah, I just find it funny that I got into manga by watching Ponyo, because it's a weird way to do it, but if I hadn't have watched Ponyo, I wouldn't have known about anime and stuff, like, not really. And then if I hadn't have done the homework to a poorer standard than the teacher wanted, I wouldn't have walked in on the anime and manga club at school, and then I wouldn't have, you know, found my love of anime, my love of manga, and I wouldn't have, you know, the friends that I have today through online, you know, Discord servers and stuff, through our special interests, which is manga and anime. So if I hadn't had those interests, and I hadn't watched that film, and I hadn't gone to that club, I wouldn't be doing this YouTube video. It's, you know, and it's just a weird way to think about it. But yeah, let me know in comments how you got into manga collecting and stuff, because now I'm intrigued on how you've all got into it and stuff, because it's a really weird way to think of it, you know. But yeah, thank you for watching. I will try and remember to link the Discord in the description box, so you guys can add in some video suggestions. Just join for the JJ's emotes that Maho has sent in, or, you know, the other emotes that we've got. But yeah, thank you for watching, and I will see you guys next time.